What if the next global superpower shift wasn't decided in Washington or Beijing, but deep beneath African soil? What if a single deal worth over $60 billion quietly flipped the balance of global influence? And what if, while the world was distracted, two nations made a move so bold, so strategic, that it sent shockwaves straight through the corridors of power in the United States? This is not speculation. This is not a theory. This is happening right now because Tanzania, once overlooked in global economic conversations, is now sitting at the center of a high-stakes geopolitical transformation. And India just made one of the smartest moves in modern economic history. But here's the part no one is talking about. This isn't just about minerals. This is about control of the future. Stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this deal is making powerful nations nervous and why Africa is no longer playing by the old rules. Welcome to the African Spotlight for 7. For decades, Tanzania was known for its beauty, Mount Kilimanjaro, vast savannas, rich culture. But beneath its surface lies something far more valuable than scenery, a hidden treasure, a geological jackpot. Rare earth minerals, lithium, nickel, graphite. These aren't just resources, they are the foundation of the modern world. Every smartphone you use, every electric car being built, every solar panel, every wind turbine, they all depend on these critical minerals. And here's the reality. The global demand for these materials is exploding. Why? Because the world is transitioning fast. From fossil fuels to clean energy. From analog systems to digital infrastructure. And at the heart of this transformation is one simple truth. Whoever controls the minerals controls the future. For years, a handful of countries dominated this space, but Tanzania was waiting, watching, preparing, and now it has stepped into the spotlight. Africa has always been rich in resources, but historically, it has not been rich in value extraction. For decades, the pattern was the same. Raw materials were exported. Processing happened elsewhere, profits flowed out of the continent. Local economies benefited, but only marginally. Real wealth, it was created somewhere else. This model kept Africa dependent, it limited industrial growth, and it allowed external powers to maintain control. But over the past decade, something began to change. African leaders started asking different questions. Why export raw materials when we can process them ourselves? Why accept unfavorable deals when we have leverage? Why remain dependent? When can we build independence? And Tanzania became one of the countries ready to act on those questions. While many global powers were still evaluating risks, negotiating terms, or hesitating, India moved, not loudly, not aggressively, but strategically. India recognized a critical reality. The future of global industry depends on secure access to minerals, and relying on existing supply chains, that's no longer safe. So India made a bold decision. Instead of competing in crowded markets, why not build new partnerships? And that's exactly what it did. India approached Tanzania not just as a peer, but as a partner. This deal, valued at over $60 billion, is not a traditional mining agreement. It's something much bigger, much deeper, much more transformative. Here's what makes it different. Instead of exporting raw minerals, Tanzania will process a significant portion domestically. That means higher value retention, more revenue, more industrial growth. India is investing in roads, energy systems, and logistics networks to support the mining sector. This doesn't just benefit mining, it boosts the entire economy. Knowledge sharing is a key component of this partnership. Tanzania gains access to expertise that can strengthen its long-term capabilities. Thousands of jobs, direct and indirect, are expected to be created. Not just low-level jobs, but skilled, technical roles. This is not a short-term extraction deal. This is a long-term strategic alliance, and that's what makes it powerful. Now let's address the big question. Why is this making the United States uneasy? The answer lies in control. For decades, the US and its allies have maintained strong influence over global supply chains, especially in strategic sectors. But this deal challenges that influence. Here's how. India securing direct access to Tanzanian minerals reduces reliance on traditional supply routes. Africa and India forming stronger ties creates alternative power blocks. Rare earth minerals are critical for defense, technology, and energy. Losing influence over these resources, that's a serious concern. The US has long viewed Africa as a key strategic region, but new partnerships are changing the dynamics, and that shift cannot be ignored. Right now, there is a quiet race happening across the world. Not for land, not for oil, but for minerals. Countries are competing to secure long-term access. Because without these resources, renewable energy systems cannot expand, advanced technologies cannot evolve, and the demand is only increasing. This is why deals like the Tanzania-India partnership are so significant. They are not just economic agreements, they are strategic moves in a global competition. What's truly remarkable is how Africa is repositioning itself. No longer passive, no longer reactive, but proactive. Countries are setting terms, demanding value, choosing partners carefully. This is a shift in mindset. And it's changing everything. Tanzania is not alone. Across the continent, nations are beginning to assert control over their resources. And the world is taking notice. Of course, opportunities of this scale come with challenges. Managing a $60 billion deal is not simple. There are risks, governance and transparency, environmental concerns, economic management. Long-term sustainability success will depend on how well these challenges are handled. Because this is more than a deal, it's a test of leadership, a test of vision, a test of execution. What we are witnessing is not just economic development, it's a shift in global power. For decades, influence was concentrated in a few regions, but now that influence is spreading. New players are emerging, new alliances are forming, and new strategies are being deployed. This is the beginning of a multipolar world, and Africa is at the center of it. When one country makes a bold move, others pay attention. And right now, African nations are watching Tanzania very closely. Why? Because this deal proves something powerful. Africa has options. For decades, many countries felt limited in their choices, but now they are seeing a new path. A path where they can negotiate better terms, retain more value, build local industries, strengthen their economies. Countries rich in minerals like those with lithium, cobalt, and rare earth deposits are beginning to rethink their strategies. They are asking, why follow the old model when a new one is clearly working? And this shift, it's spreading quietly, but rapidly. While this transformation is unfolding, Western nations are not standing still. They are responding, but the question is, are they responding fast enough? There are already signs of urgency, increased diplomatic visits to African nations, new investment proposals, efforts to secure mineral supply chains, renewed focus on partnerships. But here's the challenge: the landscape has changed. African countries are no longer accepting deals without scrutiny, they are comparing offers, evaluating long-term benefits, and demanding more. This is no longer a one-sided negotiation. It's a competitive environment, and competition changes everything. India's move is not just about today, it's about the next 20, 30, even 50 years. Because India understands something critical: economic power in the future will depend on resource security. Without stable access to minerals, industrial growth becomes uncertain, technological development slows down, energy transitions stall, so India is playing the long game. By investing early, by building trust, by creating mutually beneficial partnerships, India is positioning itself as a reliable global partner. And that strategy, it's starting to pay off. Now let's talk about something even more important: technology. Because minerals alone don't create power, it's what you do with them that matters. And this is where the real transformation happens. With local processing and technological investment, Tanzania is not just exporting materials, it's building capacity to manufacture components, support industrial growth, participate in global supply chains. This is the difference between being a supplier and becoming a player, and once that transition begins, there's no going back. One of the most powerful impacts of this deal lies in its effect on people, especially young people. Africa has one of the youngest populations in the world. And with that comes both opportunity and pressure. Jobs are needed. Skills are needed, opportunities are needed. And this is where large-scale investments make a difference. Because they don't just create employment. They create ecosystems, training programs, skill development, entrepreneurship opportunities, and over time, this leads to something even more important: economic empowerment. A generation that is not just working, but building. But here's the reality: not every country will take advantage of this shift. Some will hesitate, some will delay, some will stick to outdated models. And in a fast-changing world, hesitation comes at a cost. Because opportunities like this don't last forever. The countries that act decisively will move ahead. The ones that don't will find themselves trying to catch up. And catching up is always harder than leading. For a long time, global power seemed fixed, predictable, controlled, but not anymore. Today, power is dynamic. It shifts, it evolves. It responds to strategy, innovation, and decision-making. And what we are seeing with Tanzania and India is a perfect example of that shift. Two nations, one strategic partnership, and a move that is reshaping global conversations. This is the question everyone is asking: what happens next? Will more African countries follow this model? Will other global powers step in with competing offers? Will this lead to new alliances? The answer is likely yes, because once a new path is created, others will explore it, and once competition increases, the stakes rise, which means more investment, more innovation, and more transformation. If there's one lesson from this entire story, it's this: control of resources is no longer enough. What matters now is how those resources are managed, where value is created, who benefits in the long term. And the countries that understand this will shape the future. So what does all of this mean? It means the world is changing. It means the old rules no longer apply. It means that countries once overlooked are now becoming central players in the global system. Tanzania's deal with India is not just about minerals. It's about redefining relationships. It's about shifting power. It's about shaping the future. And while some nations may feel uneasy, others are moving forward strategically, confidently, boldly, because in this new era, the winners will not be those who react. They will be those who act, and right now, Africa is acting. If you want to stay ahead of these global shifts, if you want to understand the real stories behind the headlines, then make sure you subscribe to the Spotlight for 7, because here, we don't just talk about Africa. We reveal its rise, and trust me, this is only the beginning.